Hey, Nick Ortego here. I'm going to show you how to do this exercise called the windmill with a kettlebell. The windmill is a great strengthener of the core, the abdomen, the spine. Also a great strengthener of the hip abductors, the glute medius. Those muscles are key importance if you want to be able to have injury-free lower back and knees. Also, if you want to perform optimally in movements such as running, where those muscles help you absorb the ground impact force and propel it into the next step. So, with this movement, we want to have big emphasis on keeping the spine neutral while you're picking up the weight. So, spine neutral means it doesn't round forward, it's not overly extended backwards, it's just straight, and I'm hinging at the hips for the movement, meaning the hips do all of the movement. The reason for that is that the spine can handle a lot of load if it's in a neutral position. If the spine gets out of neutral, if it goes into flexion, it can't handle as much load before something structurally disintegrates or gets injured. So a disc or a ligament is more likely to be injured if you get out of neutral spine while you're putting a load through the spine. So with this, you do it on each side basically. So we're going to work on the right side first, the right hip abductor. I'm going to turn my right heel outward. I'm standing on pretty much on top of the kettlebell. Right heel outward, my left toes that way. So my feet are turned that way. And what I want to do is just put my hands on my hips and be sure that I can move by hinging at my hips and get all different directions. I'm just kind of going in a big circle here. And you see I'm hinging at the hips, I'm not rounding my spine. You'll be able to tell if you're rounding your spine because your chest goes down and it looks like this, whereas if you hinge at the hips, your spine remains nice and long. So that's what we want to do. We want to engage the core to keep the spine long. If you have trouble doing that, work on that before you lift a weight like this. So what I'm going to do is reach my left hand down. I'm going to line up where my left hand is pretty much lined up with the handle of the kettlebell, and I'm going to reach my left hand down and start to hinge at the hips. What I want to do is make sure this heel is turned out. I won't be able to hinge much at the hips unless my heel is turned out that way. Then I can push my hips that way. Most of my weight's going to be on this right leg, probably 70%, maybe even 80%. My weight's on that leg, the knee is slightly bent, and I'm keeping my spine nice and long. And then I'm going to see, can I reach down and grab the kettlebell, keeping my spine long, keeping my shoulders squared up this way. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here with my spine rounded. I want my spine long, hinging at the hips, most of my weight on this leg and up. So what I suggest is to practice that technique before picking up the weight. Then you can go to the other side, push that hip out. My right hand's going to reach down. This left heel goes outward a little bit. I'm seeing maybe I'll loosen up a little bit, hinging my hips, going all directions. Put a lot of weight, 70-80% of the way through here. Can I do it? This one seems a little tighter. Doing this drill before you lift it, it's a good way to assess yourself. Good. A nice long spine. I don't want to be rounded here. Alright, we're going to go back to the right side. I'm actually going to lift it now. Right heel back. Because I'm able to keep my spine nice and long, I'm ready to lift it. Start with a light weight, ground into the right heel, chest lifted. A good way, because there's another variation where you're going to hold a kettlebell above your head, just to extend that arm up overhead and look up at your hand. And as I'm looking up at my hand, keeping my spine nice and long, I'm going to grab the kettlebell. I'm going to take a big breath in, and then I'm going to exhale and push my right heel into the ground, keeping the spine long. I'm going to inhale on the way down, and exhale, coming up, looking up at my top hand the entire time. That's the way to get started with the windmill. Great hip strengthener, great abdominal strengthener, but you have to do it right or you're going to risk a spinal injury. Neutral spine is critical. Neutral spine is what makes you use those core muscles. If you get out of neutral spine, if you just collapse into it, bend over in your spine goes into flexion, what's happening there is all of the ligaments and discs in your spine are taking the load. We don't want those to take the load, we want the core musculature to take the load, and that's how you do the kettlebell windmill. If you found benefit from this video, leave a comment below. If you want more access to tons of content that's not available on the blog or the regular YouTube channel, then click the link that's connected to this video and you'll have a chance to do that.